was born in Sunbury, right in town, in one of the little houses, and of course grew up here. And his family was from here, and of course Betty was too. And he has loved Delaware County, Sunbury, and Galena, and that's where he chose to stay and own a business and make a living and raise his family. And he was very partial to the big one schools. He loved their sports programs. His kids went through there, and he was very supportive and the things that they did, and very proud of all the accomplishments of not just his own kids, but all of their friends, and then his grandkids. And especially over the years, I have to say that Ted was very emotional and proud of his grandchildren as they went through the schools and excelled in sports and in academics and all the things that they did, and went off to college. As far as Forman Realtors being a family business, it definitely was. I mean, Ted owned the farms and worked real estate. Mike, took care of the cattle and the hogs and the farming and the baling hay, and Brent was right in there and worked and did all that stuff. And then over the years, Mike and Brent have both been involved in construction of the homes and the sewers and the sidewalks and everything that they've done. Brent has been a lifelong employee of his dad's, and that was very important to Ted. And I think that's the difference in a small company like Forman Realtors. It's family owned, and the focus is on supporting the people that you care about in the community that you care about, as opposed to a big real estate franchise or other companies that come into an area. They're not as invested in the community and the lives of the people that they live with, and I've come to know over the years and appreciate and love. You don't stay in business in a small community for 50 years without doing something right, and that's what Forman Realtors has done through Ted's example, and which has been carried on by Mike and Brent and Martin and Kelly. Forman Realtors came into my life actually, I think, in 1966, the year that they started, because my mom and dad bought a house that was under construction that Ted was building for someone else, and they ended up deciding to sell it, so Mom and Dad bought it on Sunbury Road. And we lived in Gahanna, and Ted actually came to our house in Gahanna to have Mom and Dad sign the paperwork and stuff. And so I've known Ted since I was 9 years old. He thought John and Joe were quite the treat because they were just little guys. They were less than 2 when he came down to Gahanna. And he talked about his family and his kids and just life in general. And that's how Forman Realtors came into our lives. Ted was always a go-getter, but he was very quiet about it. My dad always admired Ted, and he would often say that Ted Forman was awake when everybody else was asleep. And over the years, I've come to know what he meant by that comment, and it was true. Ted was wide awake. When we moved to Galena, Ted's office was in Sunbury in the little brick building there that backs up to Letts Avenue, I believe. He was in the basement. Ted would build a building, rent out the nice top half of it, and put his office in the basement. Made good use of space, and it was very economical at that point too. I started working for Ted just on a very part-time basis. Oh, after Mike and I were married, and got to see firsthand how he operated. He would have a desk full of nothing but notes and paperwork, but he answered the phone every time it rang, if he could, if the other salespeople didn't yell at him. And he was very responsive to the needs of people in the community, that's for sure. Over the years, Ted would move to different buildings that he built, and he would stay in those for a while. Forman Realtors would be in there. It would be close to whatever construction he had going on at that particular time, whether it was Foxborough or Willowick, all the construction and the housing developments out there on 3637, just west of Sunbury. And I did payroll, and I paid all the bills, and I can tell you there were times when there was no money in the account, and he was just living on the edge. And I don't know how he did it financially, and I don't know how he did it emotionally, because that has to be so draining. But he always paid his bills, and the interesting thing about that was so many people, so many businesses that he did work with, they knew Ted personally, and they would carry him as long as they needed to, because they knew he was good for the money and that he would come through in the end, and he always did. And that was such an admirable thing about Ted. He was always very responsible about what he owed and the things that he was doing in his career. Over the years, Ted built a lot of things in Sunbury. Let's think about that a minute. I remember when he brought Showa. Well, he helped to bring Showa to Sunbury, and I mean now that's a huge major employer in the town, and that's such a blessing. And he was quite proud of that, and he even took the time to figure out a little bit about the culture of the Japanese people, so that he wouldn't offend anybody when they came to the meetings and to look at real estate and things like that. I thought that was pretty interesting. And while Ted was one of those that could work with anybody, on a high level as far as real estate goes, and big companies and big bucks, lots of money, things like that, he also had a tender heart for the folks that were down and out. He'd have employees that he kept on simply because he knew they needed a paycheck. And he would anonymously buy boots for kids that he knew didn't have any boots, and or work clothes, or even school clothes, and nothing was ever said about that. But that was just from one level to the other. He was just very giving and very conscientious. Now, currently, our office manager is Jennifer Fielding, who does a great job. And some of our folks that work in the office, Steve Barbeau's been with the Forman Realtors for years. He does a great job, and has been a big asset to the company, as has Jennifer. And of course, now we have Roland Higgins and Linda Worley and Mike Pancooch and Don Poland. And Don's been with the company for quite a while too, so it's a good mix of folks, and they're a lot of fun, and I think that's part of why Forman Realtors has been in business as long as it has, because you get local people that are committed to the company, and it does well. It survives, it thrives. It doesn't just survive, it thrives. So over 50 years, there's been a lot of changes in Sunbury, in the Big Walnut community, in Galena, and in our company as well. And lots of businesses have come and gone, and we're still here hanging in there, celebrating our 50th year. And this year we've done a lot of parades to celebrate. We did the July 4th in Sunbury, and well, I guess we started off with the Utica Memorial Day Parade, and we did a parade in Centerburg, and we did July 4th in Sunbury. We did the Delaware All-Horse Parade for the Delaware County Fair, and we're getting ready to do the Christmas on the Square Parade. During the summer of 2016, Forman Realtors sponsored a comedian to come and perform for the town, and Taylor Mason, and we were at the Big Walnut High School in the auditorium, and it was a packed house, and it was hilarious and fun, and there were food trucks out in front of the school and a big crowd, and it was a great evening for the community, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And we've had so much feedback from that, so much positive feedback that was well worth the effort that we put into that. And of course, when we moved to Galena in what it must have been 66, there was the Sunbury Sesquicentennial, and there was a beard contest going on at the time, and Ted had a beard, and a lot of the fellows there had beards, and of course Mike has decided, since this is Sunbury's 200th anniversary and Forman Realtors' 50th anniversary, that we should have another beard contest. So all the men in my life, except for my son, have grown beards, and it's been fun to see the difference in them. I've really enjoyed that, and the community really got into